Okay, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Michelle Wedderburn. I'm the founder of Casa Elm and Hacienda Elm here in San Miguel de Allende. Casa Elm is my guest house space, and we help people who are interested in a soft landing experience in San Miguel de Allende, which is located in central Mexico. And we also have another location that is all about housing individuals who are 60 plus, who want to live in community, age in community, but still be independent. So check those two things out. You can see them right here at the bottom of my screen, .com, and just get some more information about what we do. If this is your first time here, welcome. If it is not your first time here, thank you for coming back. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button if you haven't already. Today we are going to continue our Real Talk series, where we have people who've recently moved or moved, within the last few years, to just kind of share real life experiences, emotions, things that we go through. Because although we're all about promoting and helping, which is what I do at Casa Elm, people who want to relocate, how to do it right, connecting you with all the resources and all the things. That for me is the honeymoon phase. And what I've seen over the past couple of years is that there's a lot of emotional flooding that comes after, and it can sometimes last for a while. It can sometimes break people down. It can sometimes, little things can push you over the edge. And I just want to make sure that people are kind of coming in with a greater understanding of the different things that other people have gone through, including myself. We were just talking a little bit about just my personal experience of having lived away from my circle, my circle of the people I left in Connecticut back in the year 2000. And it's been such a long time that I think I've become just well adjusted to not having that. And here in San Miguel, I feel is the first time that I've had more of that really intimate community circle and good friends, a great sister circle that we talk about often and all the things. But when you're kind of maybe new to traveling, living abroad, that initial honeymoon phase can wear out really quickly, and there are a lot of things that come up, and I just want to continue that conversation. So I'm really excited to have Alicia back, and she will introduce herself and give you some more info. We had her on a couple months ago, just kind of ladies talk, and also of course my very good friend, co-host of Black Blossom, and Tracie Collins, and all the things, business strategist. She is going to introduce herself as well, but she's been living in San Miguel. So we all live in San Miguel de Allende. And it's just one of those things where I wanted to give more insight for you all. And you can ask questions, or we're just going to talk as we always do, candid conversations. If you missed last week, please go back and find it. Same title, part 1. This is part 2. And next week, I am trying to recruit. So if you live in San Miguel or somewhere in Mexico, I'm looking to recruit individuals who want to talk about challenges they've had with renting, because that's also very real as well. So this is a series just to kind of focus on real talk, real things, real issues, real challenges that we have, because there's the getting here, there's the how do I earn money, how do I fit in? What do I do to get my paperwork? Where am I going to live? All the things. But then there are the things that happen after. And I think it's important to have these conversations about what happens on a day-to-day, how it can throw us off, right? And sometimes just really get under our skin, and even sometimes break us enough where people go back to the United States or wherever they came from. So that's what we're doing tonight. Before we get into that, I want to really just quickly share a few things, and then I'll let the ladies introduce themselves. So we have our October meetup, which is happening very soon, and you can check out the details here. We still have, I believe, 2 VIP spaces, 1 or 2, and then we have general admission tickets. You can find that there. We also have some day passes for anyone who's already in San Miguel for Dia de los Muertos. There's the link for that. please do check it out. And if you're just interested in upcoming events at Casa Elm, here's the link as well. And we only have, I think, about 10 spaces left for our Thanksgiving brunch. It's going to be something else because I am really pushing myself. I know I'm going to regret this the day before, the week of, the week before. Not regret, I'm just going to be like, what were you thinking? I have this very elaborate, sexy Jamaican fusion menu that I'm just like, oh, this sounds great and that sounds good and let's do this and let's do that. I'm recruiting help, but the point is that it's going to be a good time. Danielle's going to sing. She sang last year. We also have a special guest singer who's going to drop 2 songs for us. But the menu is incredible, so please check it out. It's at Casa Elm Events. We only have 20 seats. I believe we have 11 left, I believe. So check out the menu, check out the things. If you're in town or you want to come to town for it, please join us for that. And of course, Hacienda L. We still have our Try It On program. I think we have like quite a few people that are going to be coming here in the starting in October. So if you are interested at all in this, please check that out. And that's our document that gives all the details about the Try It On program. And if you have any questions at all, you can reach out to me at this email and then we're going to get started, okay? Email is, I'll just put Casa on here. Okay, this is how you reach us. All right, quick welcome to Michelle Watson, also our tea sponsor for Ingenuity. And if you are in the States, you can order her teas. I just dropped that link. Hey. And also welcome to Lisa. Hi, Lisa. I see you. And Khadijah, hey. And Cynthia, hey, what's happening? And Danielle, welcome, welcome, welcome. Danielle's gonna sing. All right, ladies, let's get started. So Alicia, you can give us your full intro. Tell us about your business if you'd like, your website, same for you, Tracy, and what you do here, how long you've been here, all the good things.
Well, hey guys, I'm glad to be here again. I think, as Michelle said, we talked a couple of months ago, and we talked about all the bright sides and all the wonderful parts of the relocation experience. And not that I'm not going to do that this time, but as she said, we're going to let our hair down a little bit more. So I am a recovering workaholic. I lived in North Carolina before heading to San Miguel, by way of DC for quite a number of years. I have a 9-year-old daughter. And ultimately, I realized that I was working myself to death physically, mentally, emotionally. I wasn't present for myself. I wasn't present for her. And I was feeling resentful. I had this house and I felt like I was basically acquiring things in order to do the wonderful keep up with the Joneses that we always talk about. And overall, I had to sit for a moment and realize, like, do I need things or do I want experiences? And ultimately, do I want to be present in life? And that stoked the desire for me to think about moving abroad. It wasn't a new idea for me, but it's something that I just never had done. And so, in a period where I was really flipping my life upside down, leaving a job of a decade, starting a new business, I was like, hey, let's go and shoot for the stars. And so then I decided to do the relocation. I had toured different parts of Mexico, ran across Michelle's channel. I was like, what is this San Miguel? I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a bunch of old people. No. But then I was like, but wait. Let me just think about it though. And so I did a bit of a scouting trip last year. And it just so happened that when we came towards the end of the month, the Black San Miguelians were having their monthly brunch. And I got to see people who look like me. My daughter got to see people who look like us. And she was like, oh, okay. And they were of different ranges of ages. And so it just clicked. I was like, we're everywhere, first of all, around the world. But being in a community where there are people who have similar dreams and aspirations and they've come from somewhere here. It made me feel like I was on an equal playing field with people, and it gave me peace. And San Miguel is also a place that I think physically gives people peace. Like, you get here, it's slower, and the pace of life worked. And so that was really the journey that I had in terms of my personal. But for the work that I do, as I said, I started creating a online health consulting business, and a lot of that work is focused on working with community-based organizations, nonprofits, and academics to think about how do they get funding and programming instituted for various health topics and communities in need. And so a lot of my work is focused in that area of engaging with groups to be more community person-centered, to help funders and others to think more in ways of, are you doing things that are with and by communities, or are you basically just initiating funding and giving it out to do things that are your purposes? So a lot of my work is around being provocative and getting people to think more about who needs to be in the room, who needs to be at the table, and how do you make the table one that people want to come to and feel welcomed. So that's a lot of my work. And so it's interesting, especially with this new administration, a lot of the loops and curves that have been thrown, especially in the health and public health field that I'm in. So it's a work in progress, but that's what I do. And I can provide my website information that we can put in the description later.
Yeah, please do. Thank you. All right, thank you for that. Tracy?
I don't know. It feels like mine isn't going to be as lengthy as as y'all's. So my name is Tracy. I am originally from Oakland, California, by way then of Atlanta, Georgia, before coming to San Miguel de Allende. And I knew I wanted to live abroad starting back in 2015, and I've always kind of been in the entrepreneurial space pretty much my entire adulthood. And when I knew I wanted to live abroad, which was in 2015, I started transitioning my work to be online with the exception of like, in-person contact with direct client services. And in 2022, we started scouting Mexico heavily. We went to several different parts of the country, and SMA was never on the radar. I wanted to visit, but it was never on the radar. And we went to all of the major expat locations. And when we thought we were going to land, nature forced us here to San Miguel in a good way. But we, there was nothing soft about our landing once we left in 2023. And we spent a couple of months in Mexico City. That was hell. And so we came to San Miguel. Literally, I think God just kind of did like this, but by design. And I'm so grateful that it happened that way. So we've been here for just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. So now I'm officially into the 3rd year of being abroad, which is funny how time is flying so fast. But I mean, I will say this, had I not left the States, all of the Black women that I would like throw them dogs for, and I'm not a fighter, I would not have met had I not left the States. And what I do for work is I work with women in business to help them scale their businesses with automations and ease. And being a business strategist and brand strategist is something I absolutely love. Being in the entrepreneurial space for so long, I understand the importance of being in rooms that look like you at the table as well. And so I help other Black women primarily, or women just get to the table really to create their own. I just really believe that we need to get paid for our intellectual property. Ain't no nonprofit over here. So, so that's me in a nutshell.
But you work with nonprofit, right?
I don't.
No? I mean, you work with women who have nonprofit businesses.
No.
No?
I,
Oh,
I
okay.
would, I would, but I don't. I would work with them around that to strategize to, make sure they become a for-profit business and have an arm that funnels money
Gotcha.
through, like either
Okay.
like grants and founding or foundations.
Okay. Thank you for that, my friend.
Mhm.
Mi amiga. Yes. So, yeah. So Tracy and I, we've done a recent retreat, but we do a lot of like the sister circles. We co-host those together, and that's a part of the circle of women that we get to share with each other and also bring together as well. Alicia's been to a couple of our circles here at Casa Elm, which I think has really helped us overall in terms of, you know, having these outlets and these support systems to adjust when, you know, we have those challenges, which is what we are here to talk about tonight, is just to kind of keep it real and candid, as I said before, about some of the things that, to me, they just kind of, it's a continuation of what happened wherever you left behind. I don't think that it's anything new. I think what creates a bigger, greater, maybe impression of it being stressful is that now you're dealing with the cultural differences, the language. I know for me, I speak Spanish decent enough. You know, like Sandra and I, we were talking today, and she was saying that her family is kind of knocking her for not knowing any or better English because she's been working for me for 3 years. And I was saying to her, like, yeah, you know, like, feel free to practice, et cetera, et cetera. But I also realized that I've learned a lot because I had to learn a lot more, but it really is taxing on my brain. Like, I realize my body goes into kind of like this resistance mode when I have to deal with taxes, going to the bank to withdraw money. And I talked about this last week, but just kind of me now really paying more attention to how it shocks my system. Not understanding something, afraid of transferring money to the wrong place because I don't fully understand what it's asking me. The translate doesn't fully make it make sense all the time. And just this constant shock to the system. You know, am I doing something right in terms of my business because I've had other issues, things like this. So I don't remember experiencing all of these like series of things when I had my business in the United States. And I think that all of these are factors that maybe we don't really realize because it's very subliminal at times. Like, for example, I have an accountant. She understands me in English, but we communicate in Spanish, and it is exhausting. Like, I cannot stand having a meeting with her. I'm literally like, just write it all out, tell me what you need, and let's keep it moving. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore because it's exhausting and I feel like brain dead tired. And, you know, she'll stick around for like an hour. I cannot. I just can't. It's like taking a class that you just don't want to be in. Just don't want to be there. Anyway, what for you, Alicia, what has been like one of the biggest unexpected challenges since moving to Mexico? And maybe there's more than one.
So I didn't put in my intro, but next week makes my 1 year anniversary here.
Oh,
So
yay.
just
Time's
about
a
to cross
flying.
over into that side. And it is celebratory for me because it is one of those things that you don't know what it's going to be like until you do it, especially if you've never lived abroad. So I think with that being said, you don't know, you really don't know what you're getting into until you're in it. And then, you know, if you're most people, you have to keep going through. There's no push the button and go back. So I think the biggest that I have encountered is, as you said, you left your friend circle in 2000. I have had numerous friend circles in all the cities that I've lived in. But coming here, and as you said, there are cultural differences. You kind of got to get into the community, get to know people. And so when you're coming from ready-baked friendships and other opportunities that are really easy for you, it is hard because you have to make inroads. You have to join the Facebook groups to get to know things. You have to show up. I think there is a bit of vetting. Like, people are really accepting here, but they're always like, but let's just see who you are. Let's see how this plays out. So you are it's not your representative, but you're just trying to get to know who people are, and again, let them know who you are as a person. And so that's exhausting in addition to all of the stuff swirling as you getting to know the country. Also, as I said in my intro, I came with my daughter. She's young. So there's a whole nother thing there. When you're not coming with a partner or a family structure, it's just you and your kid. And so that's very exhausting. Trying to find childcare that's trustworthy, being able to get out and about at the spur of the moment sometimes is really difficult. And I am what I refer to as my extroverted introvert. I became more introverted during the pandemic, but I enjoy being out and hanging out with people. So having limitations where it's like, oh, that's coming up, but I can't because I don't know. I've got to find childcare. I've got to think about it. It's exhausting and it can make you feel a bit isolated. And so you often will, if you're in that place and space, worry, not worry, but think about the comforts of home and the friendships you have that are easy, that you know, I can go to so-and-so's house, I can call someone, like all the things. So there is a bit of, I think, trial by fire in terms of that experience if you do crave the company of people. If you come here and you're more introverted, you're going to be fine because you're just going to be in your house, you can go out when you want to, and it works. So I think that has been the biggest for me, is the adjustment to not being able to just go and interact and do things as I would normally do them. And it does, like I said, make you sometimes think about home and the opportunities there. So that would be the biggest challenge. And then the second one is my daughter. We're both now outside of the honeymoon phase. So it's real. She's like, oh, so this is it. This is home. This is the school system, or these are my friends. And so she has been having more and more conversations around, I miss my old friends. And especially when she talks to them online or they play games and she's like, oh, they were telling me about what they did in school today. And so I'm starting to get a lot of those conversations of, well, mommy, why? Like kids don't get that when you do something, it's long term. She's like, well, oh, I don't know if I thought this was just an adventure. But we're still here. And so we're having conversations where she is now longing for home. And we traveled a lot back and forth to the States of this past year. But this has been the first time period. I think we've been probably about 3 months that we haven't been back in the States. And so that's the first time where she's been away from family and friends for so long. And me too, where you're like, oh, okay, this is our life. And so those two big challenges around the socializing aspect and then having a child who is wanting their familiar and not necessarily not integrating here, but being more nostalgic about home and constantly questioning and comparing things. And it feels like I'm constantly doing pep talks around being here. So, yeah.
Interesting. But I can see that. I've heard some other parents that went through that initially with their kids. You know, that's same age, around the same age as your daughter. And yeah, they were just kind of like, oh, maybe I'm going to leave because, you know, they're not feeling it and whatever. I mean, she's still here. This was years ago. But I remember that was a conversation. I think maybe for my son, he was a little bit younger and had only, you know, he did one school year, kindergarten in the US, and then we left. But I know that there is still that attraction to, you know, what they left behind. You know, with my son, it's bowling. I mean, there's bowling here, but we have to go kind of far to get to it. You know, of course, being able to communicate to his friends back there, his dad, you know, so we do get that kind of like nostalgic thing, and I'm missing. So I totally understand that too. Yeah, yeah. And Tracy?
As far as the adjusting, I think, well, for me, it's not, I won't say it's not me. I'm not the drama. No, but when you're coupled, you're, you know, I've been in the entrepreneur space for forever. So I'm used to taking risk and I'm used to making it work. And that's just a part now of my makeup. But when like my partner, my spouse is the stark opposite of me. They're used to structure and things being a certain way, a certain, you know, time. And one of the things that the States definitely has down packed are systems. And one of the things that Mexico has down packed are inconsistencies. So you can anticipate things being inconsistent. So that was the adjustment of her getting acclimated, of things not being like they are in the States. And then for me, it was more so trying to rediscover who I was. on this side, because when I left, or when we left in 2023, we sold our house, I sold my company, I released a book that year. So there was a lot of transition. But in that transition, once we finally got settled, I had to take time to learn the new me. And then it took me probably about a good 8 months to maybe a year to say, okay, everything that you accomplish, you're still that girl. Geography doesn't take that away from you. And it was really like, Oprah says, the aha moment or the epiphany. But even still, for somebody who is used to creating her work, I still had to create that. And so that was different for me. So that transition of work was what I was dealing with, and that new self-discovery.
Mhm. That makes sense. Yeah, I think for me coming here, even though I had the experience of living away from Connecticut prior to when I moved to Mexico, but I had moved to Texas, I moved to Florida, and then I came to Mexico, but I had traveled in and out of Mexico. But still, I thought it was going to be kind of like a 3 month, I'm getting settled and everything will be in place. And, like you think you're just lining everything up and everything is going to, kind of go according to plan, not realizing, as you said, the kind of like the inconsistencies of how things work and how much more you have to put in your day just trying to get simple things finished. I was so spoiled in the US with scanning a check, to put money into an account, transfer, moving money really easily, and things like that. And it doesn't mean you cannot do that here. It's just some things you can't, it doesn't work here. It doesn't happen. And I can't even really think of what all those things are now because I'm more adjusted to what it is here, but it is still very frustrating. I talked about that a little bit last week. Like even today, I was just like, okay, I'm now at the bank again, taking out more cash because my machine only gives me X amount and I have to go inside and have to make sure my signature looks exactly like this. And it was really adorable because the teller was like trying to say something to me in English. And I'm usually pretty good at bad English, understanding bad English. And I just didn't understand him, and he said it again. And then I was asking him what he said in Spanish, and then he repeated. Then he finally, I think he was just like, I don't know what I'm saying either. And he kind of stopped. But it's just kind of this, you have to find like those moments to laugh at things. Otherwise, it can be very overwhelming. And I'm keeping it real because, I find myself at times where, I'm clenching my jaw and I'm, driving and I'm just like, ready to just be like, beat the horn because of all the factors and all the things. And again, I absolutely would not change where I am. I really would not. I absolutely love living in Mexico. I loved coming back to Mexico after traveling earlier this year and how much I, missed my home. I consider this really my home base indefinitely. I really intend on staying here indefinitely. I don't have plans of living anywhere else. I will definitely travel, but there's still the things, and they quickly come flooding back into my mind when the stuff comes up and I realize, okay, what can I do that might be a little bit different to ease these things out of my day? And what are those things that can maybe make it a little easier? And there's just a lot of challenges because there are a lot of ways that for me, because I have a business, but there are a lot of things that are done very differently than what I anticipate. For example, when I go to the grocery store, I have to get an RFC, a factura, which is through my RSC, for all of my receipts, which requires me to scan put in my RFC number at this little machine, this little kiosk. Everything is, it is chaos actually. Everything is in Spanish, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it's saying something to me, and I'm like, what now? Or it doesn't work at the gas station, and just like it's all these like little added things, and sometimes I'm just like there, and I'm persistent. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure it out. And once you figure it out, then you feel like you got somewhere. But it does take a lot of patience. So come with a lot of patience. That's what I want to say. Before we get into the next question, I wanted to welcome Sharon. Hey, how are you? And Aging Grateful. Hey. Danica, I haven't seen you for a while. Good evening. Cynthia says, hi, Tracy. She's lived in Oakland for 30 years. And yes, we're going to see you soon. Lisa's looking forward to learning Spanish fluently. Me too. Me too. I'm still
Me
looking forward
too.
to it. I sound fluent to people who are
You
non-Spanish
do.
speakers.
You
Yeah,
do. You sound
exactly.
fluent.
But I'm sure if I translated it, it would probably laugh at me. Um, Michelle says she'll be purchasing a car in Mexico when she relocates next year, and she already started watching videos in Spanish of the process to familiarize myself with certain words. Okay, I can give you a few choice words if you need it for the road. Just let me know. Shauna says, greetings, goddess. Hey, can't wait to see you. And welcome to Shauna as well. Lisa, let's see. It's daunting as I was reading a Facebook post with someone trying to scam this man who was selling a car. They faked a deposit, which was supposed to be in his bank account. Yeah, we can talk about that. I'll talk about that in a moment. Hi, Angel, welcome. And let's see if there's anything else. I think that was it. I want to say this about Facebook, and then I'll get to my next question. So, quite a few months ago, it was very early in the morning. Someone had kind of like they were selling a bunch of household items, and I was like, oh, these look really cool, some nice things. And I remember looking at all the pictures and thinking, like, these are cool items, right? Especially for San Miguel. And some of them look like things that were a little bit more difficult to get here. And I was kind of like, yeah, I need some stuff for the hacienda, so let me reach out to this person. So you always want to make sure in any situation, especially with people you don't know, is don't send money. Like, I mean, do you do that in the US? I don't think so. And if you do, you shouldn't, because you don't know those people, right? They're on Craigslist, Facebook, all the stuff. So it just amazes me that people send this random person money. But I remember the person who posted it asked me about the items. Oh, I've gotten a lot of inquiries about this. If you want me to hold it, I can't show it to you or meet you until 5 o'clock later on in the day. And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I literally immediately frowned about it. And I thought, no, like, why would I send you money for something that I want to see if do I even want it? Anyway, the point is later on, that same post showed up a few times on some other San Miguel pages saying it was a scam, and a few people had sent money to this person, and then suddenly the fake profile was gone. So the point of saying that is there are a lot of things like this going on everywhere, and it also happens in Mexico. It happens here. Don't get so excited about items. Go and look at the items. Don't pay anybody money for anything. Not for rent, not for anything until you see it, and make sure it's a fair, even transaction. I also tell people, if you're renting, use a reputable person who can kind of walk you through all the steps of what you need to know. Even if you need to hire an attorney, to make sure you're renting from the person who actually owns the house. And all the things. So I just wanted to throw that out there since it came up in conversation. For you, Alicia, how do you feel that you have handled cultural differences and misunderstandings with the locals?
I'm still learning. When we talk about being fluent in the language, learning is a process. And so I come in and I'm excited and I take courses, and then life gets busy and I stop and I'm like, oh, wait, I got to get back to it. Because ultimately you realize you like things that are commonplace here may not happen in the States. I've said to friends and family before, the notion of a service appointment is laughable. If you have an appointment for tomorrow at 10 a.m., they might show up at 8:30 and you're like, whoa, wait, or they may show up at noon, or they may show up not at all. And so there's a lot of that. And so you get all tight, like, oh, well, this is rude and they're wasting my time. And it just is what it is. If they're on another job, it gets busy. They stay on it, they're doing it. They're not thinking like, oh, let me text and call this person to let them know what's going on. And so you can be easily frustrated by things that are just kind of like chill. Is it an emergency? Do you have, a gas leak? Do you have water flying anywhere? If not, they may not deem it I'm coming right at that moment that I say I'm coming. And so as an American and us in that microwave society that we live in, where you push the button and something happens and you get the thing you want the way you want it, it just doesn't happen here. So I think for me, that's a lot of it is just how things go. Or someone, you're out and about and you're talking to someone and they'll tell you something and you're like, okay, that sounds good. And then you talk to them the next day and it changed. And you're like, but wait, we just talked about this. You said this is how it works. This is how you're going to do it. Completely different. And so it's like you can either get wound up and get pissed off and you all, given the energy, or you're just like, okay, it is what it is. And so again, accepting things that are emergencies or urgent matters versus this is life. We can agree to disagree. Some people are like, no, that's just rude. You need to do it a certain way. If that's the case, you're going to be frustrated here a lot more than you need to be. Also, what you say and what someone is telling you in Spanish, like you're using Google Translate and you're looking at it, you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. And it's just simply because we think that Google Translate is the end all be all. It's not. There are a lot of cultural, like Michelle said, some choice words, some cultural things, and dialect speak for Mexican Spanish is not the same as the regular Spanish. And so you're like, okay, I don't know if I just told you your donkey is in my backyard, but you don't have a donkey and I don't have a backyard. So where are we? So I think just recognizing that you're going to say stuff. If you get the head cock or them looking at you like, then just be like, okay, let me try that again. Think of a different word or something like that. And just, and being okay with it and being willing to, I guess you can almost say embarrass yourself if you want to take it that deeply. Like you're going to say stuff that's going to be absolutely wrong, or you're going to do things that may not be what they expect. And you see, and they're like, all right, it's fine. You're a gringo. It's okay. Just deal with it. And so ultimately recognizing that the things that are triggers for us back home, the way we want business done, as you said, go to the bank, scan stuff, do all the things, you have to physically do a lot of stuff that in my mind's eye, in my first month or two, I was like, wait, I have to go inside a place and talk to a person again with Google Translate because I don't know what they're saying. It's gives you anxiety, and it also is just like it could be done so much easier. You just kind of accept it for what it is. We've had a couple of power outages in the community because they're doing construction on the road. People are chill. They're like, yeah, call CFE, which is the power electric company. It'll get resolved at some point. And you're like, when? Like today? In another hour? Like what? And so it was like 5 or 6 hours the first night. And finally it came on and everyone's like, oh, yay, cool. But it's just that sort of uncertainty where we figure as soon as your power goes out, you're online dialing up stuff, trying to see when they're going to come to you. And again, you can be upset about it or you can accept it because again, you're just going to live in a land of frustration with a lot of minor things that happen. And ultimately, I do recognize, let's say your business is online. If you can't get service, that may be really important to you. So maybe it is a big deal, but I think it's just choosing your battles. And so I've had to do a lot of that in terms of the cultural difficulties and the differences in how people relate or what they say or how they operate. And so frustrating, yes. But at a certain point, you have to say, am I going to make this a big deal today or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't help you to make things a big deal because it's going to be what it is. And I think that
You're just
that's
gonna be
the
mad and still waiting.
right and stressed out and having all these like moments of being frustrated and angry And I think that those for me are the edges that Mexico smooths out about us, and all of the conveniences that we're used to having. We don't always have them here. They're sometimes even replaced with a lot of other conveniences, so it starts to balance itself out. But in regard to water, electricity, I know when the power goes out, I just get ready to go to bed sooner. Basically, I am like, it's raining, thunder, lightning, which I love, and maybe I'm not going to have power. So then I always just like, okay, charge up your phones, get ready for bed. And, if it stays on, great, then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to, I'll be in the dark and I'm going to go to sleep earlier, or make sure I have my candles and lighter and everything's, set up for me to go to sleep. So this happens a lot in Mexico in general. And one of the things I think that helps me kind of curb how I respond to it is I think about Sandra and people who live way out, and I hear their stories. They get water once a week, sometimes twice a week. That's it. Like one of the ladies that helps me, she's pretty much like, I can't work on Mondays because I need to be at home, so that when they come and deliver water, the city turns the water on, that she's turning on her faucet. They call it a llave, a key, so that the water is going into her reserve. So for me, when I hear that, I just think, oh, you have no problems, because typically in this area where you're closer to central, in general, you don't have to be smack dab in central, but if you're in the city part, you're going to have access to the things. They're going to fix your things probably first, because they don't want the people complaining. And, those neighborhoods typically will get catered to first. It's still an inconvenience, but it does happen often. There's the reserves depending on where you live. Like I have a tinaco, a reserve on my roof. I know when it's off because that means my main hose outside at the front, if there's no water coming out of there, that means that they turned it off and they're repairing some leak or whatever on the road. And sometimes I see the leaks now that I probably wouldn't have noticed before, and I'm like, oh, we probably are not going to have any water. So it's just coming with a bucket of patience, to be quite honest. But I do think that Mexico continues to smooth out our edges in this regard, and our expectations and the things that frustrate us. But I do see how people living way outside the city, the government does not care as much. And I'll give you one more example before you go next, Tracy, is right now, and I use Sandra a lot because she works for me and we talk every day and I know what's happening in her world. But school started this week. They have no teacher in the neighborhood that she lives in. So her daughter's not in school. There's no school for the kids. And this is a school that's on their system. So this isn't just like some little, school that someone created. This is a school on their system. And she's been kind of fretting about this and talking about it. And it's close to where she lives. And she thought they were going to have a teacher today. And I asked her, like, a teacher yet? And no teacher. And I asked her, is this on the SEP system? She said yes. And I just kind of was like, wow, that's how their struggles look, right? So for me, I'm kind of like, all right, yes, I want my conveniences, but I understand I'm living in a country where there are a lot of people that are very inconvenienced on a regular basis, especially if you don't live in maybe a nicer part of town. Yeah, yeah.
For me, when we first moved, I think when it was shortly after we had arrived, one of the things that you said, Michelle, is like living in Mexico is like living in the 80s. And for some reason that hit. And for me, I think that helped kind of temper my transition when we got here, as far as how things are done. When the power goes out, I'm just like, okay, the power is out. Like, and shit, sorry, ain't nothing I can do about it. So, we just try to do the same thing, make sure things are charged, and if it comes back on or when it comes back on. Unfortunately, we haven't been that long without power where I am, but And we have had to deal with the water issue too. And, sometimes there's a notice inside Facebook, inside the group chat of your said neighborhood, and sometimes there isn't. So having to figure those kind of things out. Fortunately, I have another like adult here who kind of handles that stuff, which is my stuff. So I'm kind of coddled in that way. But I would honestly say, aside from like systems and processes, I would think more of like the relationships tend to be, like Alicia had mentioned earlier, when people come in, like, real, nice to meet you, but the kind of whole vetting process and side eye. But what I do say that makes San Miguel so much different from everywhere else in the country is that it, number one, to me, has the most Black population here in Mexico that's non-transient. And I
Mhm.
think that makes a huge difference when you're uprooting your life and you're starting anew. Like, and people don't understand that starting a new part, until you get in it. And like, Alicia had mentioned, you don't know what you don't know, but you're also navigating cultural differences, language barriers, the things that are like processes and systems that are completely opposite or from what you're used to being done. And just, I see more so people's lack of flexibility. I think people tend to give themselves more credit than they deserve, thinking like, oh, I got it. And then they get here and like, oh, no, I don't. And
Mhm.
how you can truly set yourself up for success in moving abroad is community. You have to put yourself out there. You have to do the uncomfortable thing. In the United States, it's, individualism is prioritized. In order to be successful in every other part of the world, it prioritizes community. And so getting in community with people will really make or break your experience abroad, especially
Absolutely.
coming in.
Can I just jump in real quick to what Tracy
Sure.
said? It is the long-term nature of a lot of people you deal with here. And I'll say on the flip side, at my daughter's school, a lot of the children, the parents and the children who are there, they're transient. So they're people who are coming for, let's say, 6 months, or they're here for a few months. And so they're popping in and out of the school. And so I think for my daughter, she's seeing, especially primarily English speaking people, those are the kids who are coming, and it's almost like they're on holiday, or or stuff like that. So she's feeling more disheveled because it's like there's no permanence here. The kids who are
Mhm.
here are the local Mexican kids. She's still learning the language, and she's struggling because it still takes a while. Even though kids learn it faster, she's still learning. And so for her, she doesn't feel the permanence of friendships because the people that she met in, let's say, June when we visited last year, are not the same as the people that she started school with in September. And now we're into a new school year. There's some transition there. And so I think on that sense, for the child level, there's a lot of not chaos, but a lot of change because again, families are coming in and out. But for me, on the adult side, a lot of the people in the community are the same. They have houses here, or they've been here for a few years. And so that gives me peace of mind in terms of if I go to an event, I'm going to see a lot of the same people over and over. It's not a lot of popcorning of people in and out. And so you feel safer in creating friendships and bonds and going a little deeper with people because you're like, they're going to still be here next month and probably next year, versus someone that you're like, I'm here for 6 weeks. And you're like, cool, let's hang out. But you're going to be gone, and I'm probably not going to be your pen pal. So that's the sort of stuff that I think is a wonderful benefit of San Miguel. And it's such a smaller place that the community is concentrated. So even if we're not a large percentage of the population, it's so you see these people, you go to the grocery store, you're running across them when you're in Centro, hanging out on the weekend. And so it's that sort of thing where it's a lot of familiarity, and that gives comfort and takes away some of the challenges, as I said, because you are still seeing people and you can feel like you can truly build community in a safe way where people are not in and out of your life.
Mhm. I agree with that. I would say that's one of the main reasons why I chose to live here versus somewhere where it is a bit more transient. I know you mentioned being transient with the families and kids and things like that. I have also seen that over the years, but I remember visiting Playa, Tulum, and it just reminded me of where I was coming from, which was South Beach, which is just a giant tourist city. People would come in to hang out, hang for an event, and then they're gone again. And when I visited Playa, I remember thinking this reminds me too much of that, and trying to set roots and really make more connections would be a bit of a challenge, and I didn't want that. And when I came to San Miguel to just kind of renew, refresh, visit, check it out, and all that, I remember meeting so many people just that first weekend that I was in town, and people were super friendly, talking to us, telling us how long they had been here and how long they'd lived here and all these things. And it just felt right. And I think that it stilled that. Yes, the families, I can see that because I remember that first semester of school or quarter, there was a group that was literally just here for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks. And they were a whole world school, unschool, moving around Mexico group. And I remember finding that extremely interesting because I had never really met individuals who were, doing this kind of learning or unlearning, whatever they call it, with their children. But they also were moving. And I remember thinking, like, that sounds really cool too, very interesting. But I do like having a home base. But with the families, I think even with the locals, our experience has been very similar as well. We started out living in El Secreto, and we stayed there for 4 years, and just kind of had all the same friends, all the same kids that were there, same families, all the things. They were much younger. And now, fast forward, 6, 7 years later, quite a few of those families, even though they're Mexicans, but they've moved. One family in particular I can think of, they moved to Spain because they wanted their older children to try something different. They brought, their younger child with them, who was really good friends with Micah. Another one just left last week to go to Canada for a school year. Another one went to France. And so it's like, they're all doing these really cool things. But at the same time, yes, he's losing kind of some of the familiarity in regard to the kid aspect. But for us as the adults, I think, yes, we do have, the blessing of having people around that we know. And it makes it easier. I do think that is one of the bigger attractions to why people come here, fall in love with it, and stay, not just within our community, but just in general. It's just a space where I feel, honestly, culturally, it has rubbed off on us as foreigners, and we, feel recognized, seen, human, and we start adapting this warmth, especially coming from places where we've been stressed out in our lives and things like that. Yeah. So, comments. Let's see. Someone mentioned meta glasses. Hey, Lisa. She was planning to try with earbuds to translate. I guess meta glasses that translate. I don't know. Have you
Yeah,
heard
they
of
work.
those?
They work. I had earbuds and I was like, what is this thing saying? So you're like leaning in, like what? And it's a bit of overkill, but they do work. But it's like
Okay.
you got to get yourself ready for that technology because when it starts interpreting, you're like, okay, it's weird.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know if I'm up for that yet. I have seen the ads where, you talk and it's just like an app. I don't know if it's just on your phone, and then it will like speak what the other person said, etc. I think that's cool too. Yeah. More advancements. I think it's necessary for us to survive here with more ease to have these things. Yeah, it'll get better. Lisa wants to know, is there a particular time of day that the power outages occur? Or is it sporadic? I would say it's more when there are storms. A heavy storm, lightning, thunder, things like this. I feel that a lot of the times we get the thunderbolts and the thunder and then lightning bolts that hit somewhere, and at least in Los Rales, the power will go out. Sometimes it's only for like a minute, maybe 2 minutes or less. And yeah, so I think it's really sporadic at times, but it usually happens when the weather is bad. I don't find that it's just kind of going out unless there's a problem or they're doing construction around and they turn it out because they, or turn it off because they need to install wires or whatever. I don't know if you all have anything different
Yeah, I would
happening.
definitely say it's weather. For us over the past week, it was essentially a group laying, I guess, fiber type cable. They cut the electric lines twice. So that was unexpected. Once it happened at 6 p.m. and I was like, oh, okay. And then the other was in the middle of the afternoon. So there was no rhyme or reason for that. And you can't necessarily plan around it. Although for me, I think it does help again if you have friends in the area, because I shot a message to a couple of friends. Shout out to Danielle and Elton. Like, can I come to your house? I have a call that I need to take at this time. And you just don't know. But it's so weird because as soon as we got to their house and I got set up on my laptop, one of my neighbor friends sent a message like, and we have power again. I'm like, well, we're here now. So
Yeah.
it can be long, like the 5 or 6 hour one that we had, or it can be really short, like 30 minutes, like you said, a couple of minutes or something like that.
So I'll say walk with a laptop and not a desktop. It's probably better. It's
And
probably better.
also get those UPS things to, like, if the power
Hotspots.
goes out, then there's a certain amount of storage that it'll hold the Wi-Fi for meetings and things like that for people who work
Oh,
online. So we have one that I think it goes up to 2 hours, or 5 hours, or there's one that goes 5 hours and 8 hours, but get
I'm
those
gonna need you to
extended.
link that, Tracy. I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah, I was just like, I have never
I'm
heard
not
of
that,
it.
I
I
will
was
get
just gonna say
receipts
that's
from my
Jay all
source.
day.
That's
Yeah,
Jay all day.
yeah,
That's
we're gonna
not me.
pass
But
on those details. Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Pass it on because I'm literally like, the
I
power,
didn't
the
know that.
what?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was in a meeting one time, and power went out. It was, I think we had a storm, and I was able to continue the meeting, and I had 30 minutes or a couple of hours before it went out, before that router was out.
Okay. Good to know. Good to
And
know.
just
See,
things
we
that
learned something new.
You do.
right, learn along the way.
Yeah, someone just said, Khadijah says, what is the UPS tech thing, Tracy?
Come on now, like, I have no idea what the term, I have no, all I know is the UPS. So it stands for utility power, I think, some, so don't quote me, that is
System.
not my area.
Okay, well, you could probably ask chat and it'll give you
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
And if
But
Bobby is still listening, she can ask Said, and Bobby can put it in the chat. If
okay,
Aging Grateful is still here. So if not,
okay,
I'll get the information and make sure Michelle links it in the description.
okay, you'll do that. And then Khadijah said, let's see. No, Iona was saying hello. She said, hello, amigas, Michelle and Tracy. Nice to meet you, Alicia. Thanks for the real talk about living in SMA. Absolutely. Absolutely. Angel said, "Is it's a router that extends the time?" It's a question. I think it extends your internet connection.
It
Is
extends
that
your
what?
internet
That's
connection.
what I'm understanding. So
Yeah.
do a search. Google a router that's kind of like a backup internet if the power goes out. I'm sure a bunch of things will come up, especially if it's on Amazon. Amazon's got everything on lock. You'll find it. Yeah. Okay, so we're already like an hour in. I have another question. We talked about this is just kind of in general, like, are you okay? Like, are you okay with your new life in Mexico in general? I mean, I know there's still, especially for you, Alicia, you're new to San Miguel in terms of our three-person group here. But just like sometimes maybe feeling like, okay, what would I do differently? What would I do or change in regard to life in Mexico, or maybe making the decision to come? Anything that you would do differently, and are you okay? Like, it doesn't
So,
mean, we have to
yeah.
go into personal
No, that's
deep
a good
things.
question. I think if I'm going to be fully transparent, and that was my aim when I got the invitation for this conversation, to own a lot of things. And so, and Tracy and I just had a wonderful conversation as related to our business coaching work and my business. So it is very difficult to create work sometimes unless you're kind of coming locally or you already have networks. So one of my cautions for people is get your thing that will sustain you remotely while you're at your current place if you can. Because what I did, as I said, I blew up my life in a good way in terms of leaving my job, start a new business, selling my house, getting here to Mexico. That was a lot. And again, next week makes a year. So all of this has happened in a year. But the biggest piece was, in addition to all the things swirling, creating a business online, even if I have previous clients, and Tracie says this all the time, your warm referrals and leads end at a certain point. There's only so much word of mouth, old clients that are going to come to you. And then at some point you have to generate new business. And so for me, especially in the climate with this administration, and as I said before, in my field of public health, it makes it not impossible, but it makes it challenging. People are really worried about where they're going to go for their funding. They're worried about how would they continue to sustain their projects. And so, in this place of huge competition for funds that are available, people are really squirrely about how to do it. And so, it has made my business life more challenging than I imagined, because I'm constantly like, okay, well, I've got to pivot here and I've got to pivot there, and I've got to think about new avenues and opportunities. And while that's doable, it is a lot when you still have a lot of life that you're getting accustomed to. And so that's just kind of my real talk moment, that this year it has been wonderful to be a self-employed individual, but it also can be the worst. There are some days when you're like, why did I do this? That direct deposit hit every 2 weeks. I felt it. And if it didn't hit, they were going to give it to me in a check or something the next day. But when you're self-employed, you're it. If you're not hustling, and I don't mean like always, and as I said to Tracie, always thinking about business and always working, not that, but you're still kind of in that churn for what is the next thing and kind of where are my leads. And if you're online, having an online presence and all of that stuff. And so it can be a lot. And when you're weathering a lot of things, it can wear you down. And then when, as I said before, I added on my daughter coming to me often, like, I don't know if I like it, I'm ready to go back home, and all the things, you have to contend with a lot of things simultaneously. And again, if you're a solo person and it's just you, then it's probably a little bit easier to move around and do what you need to do. But when you're thinking about others, whether it's mates, children, other things, it requires a lot more of you. And I think you can emotionally and mentally wear yourself out really quickly. Um, I would say me and my daughter both probably hit a huge slump in maybe July. We were both tired. And I just felt my energy was so low. And, and I'm like, I'm crabby and I'm angsty. And I was like, okay, some of this is perimenopause, I give it. But then some of this other stuff was just all the things lifing. And so I've had to accept that there are going to be high highs and low lows. And I've heard other expats say it. But again, to experience it and to be in those valleys, and you're looking up and you're like, okay, is this it? Is this how it's going to always feel? And then the next week or the next month, you turn a corner and you're like, okay, we're feeling a little bit better. But to me, to be honest, as you said, you've been in Mexico for a very long time. Tracie's been here going into her third year. I'm having really radical conversations with myself. All the work I've done to get here to Mexico, part of me is like, okay, do we stay here? Do we go to another city? Do we go somewhere else? Do we go to another, go back to the States? So I'm in that pivotal place where, different things are in my mind in terms of the stability of being here. And so I do want to say to people, if you get to a place, you still have the latitude to decide if that place still works for you, or if that life still works for you, if you want something different. I think for a lot of us who are, I'm a rule follower, usually it's really hard. I'm like, I'm supposed to do this, this, and this. And then if I'm going to pivot, what does that say? And what does that mean? And I'm giving myself so much more grace now. And I think that's the experience of living as an expat. I'm doing something 99% of the people I know have never done and would not consider doing. So whatever lessons and whatever kind of life changes I make in the moment, I'm good with it, because I'm like, I'm doing stuff that you sitting on your couch and you're not even thinking about it. But it is that real of, you sometimes get to a point where it's like forks in the road, in addition to those valleys, where you have to think, does a place work for me long term? Is it good for a season? And again, trying to decide what you need to do. But I'm being really mindful about choices that I make and where we are, because San Miguel really is, again, kind of a bubble of a place. And I recognize that. And I enjoy it. I enjoy that a lot. There is a relative safety here that I feel for a single woman and her child you probably are not going to get a lot of places. And so that gives me a lot of comfort. And that's a lot of the stay with itness, I think, in my love affair, and my sometimes not with San Miguel.
I hear that, sister. I do. I'll let Tracy go, but I wanted to just say really quick because this thought occurred to me. So for all the women watching, all women, whomever, what doesn't matter the color of your skin, if you're female and you're making this move, most of the shit falls on you. Period. End of story. Okay. Yeah, like as a wife, as a single mom, as everything, because you are the glue in the family, and it doesn't mean, well, I'm talking about the emotional aspect as well. It doesn't mean, you don't have someone who can kind of help you figure out stuff. I'm talking about just the whole big picture of it. Typically the decision about where you're going to live, how the house is going to look, what area, what works for my child, what doesn't, what kind of foods are out there for us, what we don't eat, whatever. When I moved here, I was a vegan, and it was just, there's a lot. And I think it just kind of is a lot more when you are a single person with a kid. It's just a lot. So, give yourself a lot of grace for doing it. Like you said, you're not the one sitting on the couch thinking about it. You actually got up and you moved, and give yourself time, yes, be ready to pivot, but understand that all of this, being an entrepreneur, even in the United States, it takes time to reach those points of feeling like all of this work is worth it. And even when you do reach that point, you're still going to question it. Okay, I am years in, and I still have a lot of moments where it just feels like a lot. And I don't think that that necessarily changes per se. It gets maybe easier, like you said, you have the up, down, middle days, all the things. You have days where you're very grateful for the success and the clients and all the things, but doing it in a foreign country, yeah, it's real. It's real. It's real.
The first year abroad is hell.
Mm.
It is. It is hell. What I have noticed, and me and Alan had this conversation a while ago, San Miguel is a very healing place, but before it heals you, it's going to strip something away from you. And it's going to be something that you're least going to expect. And you have to heal from that in the midst of you adjusting. And, depending upon if you have you're solo or you have children and you're coupled up, you're going through your transition, but so is the other person or the other people. And giving yourself grace in that moment, this is essentially again why I say getting in community, because we'll be ones like, oh yeah, that's normal. Welcome. This is what it's like. You'll be okay, but just sticking it out. And as far as like transitioning a business, absolutely. I have said that to Alicia. I said that to her this week. I was like, yeah, okay, so when that dries up, now what? And being abroad, you have to, be in a sense of creating community. You have to put yourself out there, creating yourself anew, creating your life. And so you get thrust into a constant creator mode when in the States, we're so used to things being handed to us as far as it's done like this. Now you have to create this is how it's going to be done. That's going to work for me, all the while adjusting to new life, new customs, new language, new community, and the new you. So give yourself grace, absolutely. Now, for me, if I'm okay, I don't know. I think I kind of compartmentalize. I just kind of operate on autopilot, but I do know that I miss some things about the States. I've only been back once in my time here. So that's another thing. I've given myself time to heal and breathe and have rest and respite and embrace ease and adopt a new way of life. I think when you go back and forth, it puts you in a state of this. So you're not really giving your nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system time to decompress. And so when we talk about like healing, we essentially can't heal in the place that made us sick. So I chose intentionally. The only reason why I went back before was because I had a speaking engagement. So I chose to distance myself because I wanted to heal from that pain. Now, when I go back, I can immerse myself in a way like, okay, Mexico is home, but I can go to Trader Joe's and I can go to Home Goods and go get a suitcase full of stuff, and I can go to Desta in Atlanta, or I can go to the Bay and get some crabs. So I'm going with a checklist of things. So give yourself time and grace and permission, but don't do it alone. If I give any advice, it's like, don't do it alone. Like bug the community, because we understand what it's like. And but also put yourself in a reciprocal situation to where when that new person comes in, now it's your turn to be like, this is how it is, we got you, we understand. And I think that was what important for Michelle and I when we did the first Black Blossom retreat earlier this year. We did the sister circle, we launched it there, and we decided to continue it here abroad. Here in SMA, because the connection is necessary, and you need to see that you're not alone, and there are people going through it the same time or the same way or experienced it, and that level of support that's needed. Like, you need a network.
Mhm. You really do. I think that it's essential. And also, I say this all the time, knowing yourself, knowing who you are, how tenacious you are, knowing, when you're feeling down, like admitting, you know what, right now I'm feeling a little depressed, or I'm feeling very anxious, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, whatever it is, like be honest with yourself and rest, get the rest. Tracy, I'm always go, 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 and I'm a little bit nutty about it. But I do recognize when I am exhausted and ready to claw a face. And I'm like, okay, you need to just chill out. You need to rest. You need to get back to meditating, whatever it is, listen to your meditation music, all the things. And the thing that I love, I think, one of the things I love the most about being here is the community aspect, is being able to have the connection, because I have lived away from my circle for a long time. And when I lived in Florida, I did not have that. I had my kid, I had my business, very few friends, and it was always kind of like that superficial, oh, let's go to Blue Martini and let's have, 2 for 1, let's have a meal, let's party a little, whatever. But really being able to sit down and be really transparent with friends, people that you feel good being around, and just having a good laugh or a good cry, a good hug. Like I did not have that when I lived in Florida, and I have that here. And I think that it really makes a huge difference, and it helps me really put a lot of things in perspective, and also understand how other people feel as well in this regard. I think that's so key, and one of the reasons why this space is very attractive to many people, in general. Yeah.
Also, like, know when it's FOMO versus I really want to not be where I'm at in my home country. And if you have like a fear of missing out, then maybe a sabbatical, 3 months, 6 months, and trying it out versus committing abruptly or deciding to uproot your life. Like Michelle said, knowing who you are, because if you don't know who you are, living abroad is going to tell you who you are. It just is. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's not, I think one of the things that people do online is they make it look easy, and it's not easy. It's actually one of the more harder things that you are going to do ever. So if you have a hard time adjusting to change, maybe rethinking that this ain't gonna be the move, and just going on a sabbatical, giving yourself a little, let me just try it out and see, like, and if it works. And it's okay if it does not.
Absolutely.
And one thing to go along with that, so I'm going to butcher the phrase, but it's basically like wherever you go, there you
There
are.
you are.
Mhm.
Wherever you go, there you are. So as Tracy said, know yourself as a person. And sometimes this is like a walkabout. You're going to learn who you are in this process. And so yes, you recognize some aspects of yourself, but this is going to unlock different levels for you. For me, love, as I said, more of an introvert from my more former extroverted nature. So I recognize that, but I didn't recognize how much that has sunk in at this point in my life. My daughter, after a camp, 2 weeks in camp, she was here the rest of the summer. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And every day I was like, you still here? And she was like, you still here? And I'm like, girl, what are we doing? And so she needed her space and I needed mine. And so luckily we have a 2-level place. So she'd be upstairs and I'm down here because at some point I need physical separation. I need to not have other humans in my peripheral. And so then she'd be like, I'm hungry. I'm like, oh, you're still here. Okay, great. And so you kind of dive in and out. But I recognize that some of my trough, I think, in the July timeframe was being touched out.
Yeah.
Having someone with you literally 24/7 is really hard unless again, I mean, I feel like for anyone, I don't care, that can be your favorite person in the world. At a certain point, you're like, yep, we're gonna need a moment. And
Yeah.
so just kind of having that. And also I recognize, and I think this is the Black woman syndrome sometimes, we're so uber independent. We do everything. We don't want to ask for help. We don't want to show vulnerability. We don't want to do any of that. So for me saying, hey, I'm tired. Is anybody having a play date that can take the kid? Like all this stuff. It feels like, no, we move here. I got it. This is my thing. And it's almost like we put a mantle and this kind of, cross on our backs and we move, and it does a disservice. And I tell myself that regularly. It's like, okay, you can ask for help sometimes and people can say yes, they can say no, and you've got to learn not to take it personally. If they say no, not available, okay, next. And so accepting aspects of yourself, but potentially trying to do things differently. And it's easier said than done. I still struggle with it. I still struggle with help. My daughter had a party a couple of weeks ago and I'm running around and it gets to the point where some of my friends come in and I'm like, oh, can you hang this for me? Oh, and can you make this item for me? But it's like, I could have asked for that the day before or 2 days before, but I'm like, I got it. I'll do it. It's fine. And so you get overwhelmed and then you're dealing with the ramifications of, again, kind of being crabby and cranky because you're doing the most. And this is a place that you can rest. There's help that can be bought for really cheaply here, sometimes in terms of assistance. And it's like leaning in. And so again, I'm still a newbie at this and I'm still unlearning a lot of the years worth of programming that has been woven into my system in the States. And it's a challenge. And so I think owning that you're going to struggle, sometimes you may make it harder for yourself. And it's okay. You recognize it and again, try to do better. But I think that that's a lot of it is that if you're in community and you're getting closer to people, you have to be vulnerable and you have to say, okay, let people in, let people know what you need and where you are. And often people rise to the challenge and say, hey, you want to go get a drink or something? And that's wonderful. And it's just like, okay, just needing a moment and then you kind of snap back and you're ready to go back into it. But again, just remember, as I said, wherever you are, you are there.
Right.
So
Right.
take those traits, but recognize that new things may get unearthed in your new location.
Absolutely. I wanted to just say two things to what you were talking about in regard to just, the kid thing. First is you were at the end of the school year. I feel that way in May. I'm just done. I'm like, I don't care if he doesn't make it to school today. I'm tired. You get burnt out as a parent, a single parent, and just kind of being the one who's handling all the stuff. So that's normal. And if you can in the future, you have the support system somewhere where you can let your daughter go and visit with a family member or whatever. That I really struggled with initially because I had him all the time, right? He was with me his whole entire life. And I remember a couple summers ago, we had this whole conversation about him going to, I think it was to St. Martin, so he can get his citizenship and blah, blah, blah. And I remember I was just like, oh, okay, sure. Are you coming to pick him up in Mexico? Are you, like, am I flying? And then that conversation quickly went from that to, can he fly by himself? And I had a whole panic attack, right? I was just like, solo, like all the way from Mexico, all the things. And I remember just like, I was so stressed out about this, him flying, and like, I didn't understand the process and all the things. As I said earlier, sometimes you just have to go through the stuff. And when you go through it, you're like, oh. And trust me, by the second or third time, I was like, get on the plane, like goodbye. And I remember the first 2 days being at home alone for the first time in forever. And initially I thought, oh, okay, he's gonna be back in 2 weeks and, I'm looking forward to it, la, la, la. But I remember night one, night two, I was just like, oh yeah, this is what this is. And it was such a nice feeling that I had that support, that he was able to go visit his family, that he ended up staying there way longer, like I think a month, and then the following year the same. And I thought, this is good. I need this kind of break, but you don't always know this until you kind of see yourself, like you said, running ragged. So it's normal. You're going through those phases, even the parties. Like I used to do parties for Micah. Now I'm like, you're not, yeah, we're not doing a party. I'm always like, do you want to go to the Rosewood rooftop and have mocktails? Like try to get my 2 cents in. Like, let's go somewhere fancy for your birthday, because no, we're not doing the screaming banshee thing. Yeah, and you go through all of those things, and yes, you do start realizing you can get help. You can hire someone to help you set it up, unpack, whatever. But I think it is our norm. It's a shedding of what life was, what it used to be, all the things you handle, being the superhero, superwoman, all the things. And then slowly you start pulling back and saying, okay, I can get assistance with this. But it's a process you're going through. So all of it's very normal. Yeah, all of it's very normal. So on that note, I want to say thank you, ladies. And I also want to just kind of acknowledge these few things and then we'll wrap it up. Welcome to Sharon. She had a question about her hair. Is there anyone who can do crochet locks near SMA?
Kayla. Kayla does
Kayla?
crochet lock.
Okay, Sharon, yes, yes, yes. And I
She
believe you're
she's
coming.
done her own hair. It is beautiful when she
I
does it.
saw her braids.
No,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
her.
Wait till her crochet locks. I was like, girl, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
they're beautiful.
She is very, very talented. Love that. I know I was looking at her hair today. It's so pretty. I love her braids. Um, let's see. Veronica wanted to know, is the altitude a problem for newcomers?
Yes, especially if
Yes.
you have a heart condition. So I have a heart condition. I have had two open heart surgeries. And so the altitude, especially in the hotter months, my body goes into high blood pressure mode. And I realized it was the altitude for certain when we went to Oaxaca, and my blood pressure was like, okay, now I'm back to 112 over 68. And I was like, oh my goodness. So if you have any kind of ailments or any kind of health conditions, like that is something to be cognizant of, especially in the hotter months, it's more apparent.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anybody else?
And it's just like you said, the
Um,
dryness of it as well. So especially if you don't have a car and you're going to be walking around a lot. And so I did for the first few months I was here and it was dusty. And so
yes,
you're feeling like you're exerting more, it's dusty. Again, it's just a lot going on. And so and I think people should recognize here there is kind of that rainy season and then a lot of the time it's dry and hot.
Yeah.
And so you have to recognize, like I said, there are a lot of changes. But just being kind to yourself, don't plan a lot of exertions when you first get here. Like a lot of things going, especially even in the central area, there are a lot of, hills and things that you don't recognize until you look up a street and you're like, oh, I need to walk up there. Um, but as much as you can, just giving yourself grace for like a week or two, at a minimum to acclimate a bit to what's going on, but then still being a bit cautious in those first couple of months.
absolutely. And constantly hydrating, even if you're just visiting. If you feel lightheaded or any of these types of things, I've had people who had breathing issues, and it was a real thing for them, navigating 1 or 2 blocks of walking, from a parking to a restaurant. So it can be if you have an ailment that is affected by altitude or thinner air. So you definitely need to be aware of that. And even if you're just visiting, within those, even the days before, when you first get here, and just continuously making sure you are always drinking water, electrolytes, making your own if you need to, things like that. I think it's really important. Maybe staying away from a lot of caffeine, alcohol, wine, all the things. Yeah, sugar. I don't know.
Celtic, and get some Celtic salt from Amazon too, and put that, those sprinkles in your water. Coconut water is, another good way too. But fortunately, we
Absolutely.
do have, you know, they'll come here and do IV hydration too,
Right.
because when your body is that exerted of when it's dehydrated, it can, send your heart rate into all of these things. So making sure that you're ahead of it as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Michelle and I have
I,
also talked about being cactus skin. Like,
look at me.
like
I'm
our skin is
fading.
like
Look, I'm
cactus.
turning,
Wait, what does
yeah,
that mean?
dry. Just
Yeah.
dry. I mean,
Dry.
honestly, in the dry months when it's not raining, my skin is horrible. It's, yeah, like a cactus. It's just horrible, especially my feet. I'm like, oh, so embarrassing. Yeah, no matter, I could put, I could soak them in a vat of Vaseline. It just comes out. It's
Get
like,
some lard, get some shortening, and just like have a
yes,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
The
But
dryness.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really crazy because when we went to the beach and even your blood pressure went down because we were at sea level, and the humidity of, yes, it's hot, but it was like the skin was just glowing. So that is a factor. And I definitely think it starts to affect us more the longer you live here when that time of the year rolls around. So just things to be mindful of, again, I wouldn't necessarily change it. Maybe I would consider being somewhere like for me, the colder months. I just want to be somewhere warm where there's humidity. I don't mind heat and humidity. Yeah, and then come back here, dry heat. And then when the rainy season kicks in, my skin's happier. I feel good. Like right now, it's nice. I enjoy this. Really quick, I wanted to acknowledge living abroad 60. Marianne, she was on last week. If you didn't catch that, please do. Veronica asked her question about altitude. Altitude. Someone wanted to know, do you think navigating peri and menopause is easier abroad? Are doctors understanding of this phase? I don't have any experience with doctors, so.
So I have had conversations. There are specialists here. And so one thing to know about the medical system, and I think we've covered it and likely other lives that you've done, is really accessible here. So if you want to see a cardiologist, you literally look them up, send them a WhatsApp, make an appointment. My gynecologist, I had a conversation with her. She gave me some information in terms of specialists, endocrinologists, people like that. So it is possible. If they're not local to San Miguel, you may have to travel to neighboring cities like Querétaro. It's about an hour away, roughly. And so you can see people and get information. I'm at the earlier stages of that peri journey, and it's kicking my butt all over the place. And so now I'm like, oh, so who was that person you said I need to reach out to? Because this is not it. And so I will probably have to report back in the next couple of months because I'm not a good candidate for the regular hormonal replacement therapy. So I've been getting some suppository type things and different supplements, and it's helping a bit, but I think I may need to talk with someone who does more of the specialty to see what options are available for me. So if you do have any conditions like high blood pressure or any other chronic things, it may factor into what you can take medication wise. So I would say lean into at least having initial conversations, and then if there are specialists that you can talk to. But getting medication and kind of that access here is much easier than the States. There are very few things that require prescriptions. A lot of the stuff is if you can't get it over the counter, you can get it off of Amazon Mexico, Mercado Libre. It's a lot of stuff that in the US you feel like there's a lot of kind of gatekeeping that doesn't happen here, which there are pros and cons to that. So I would say you can do a lot of things on your own with the research if you know what you're looking for. But if you want to talk to someone and get guided in that way, do so. But as I said, I'm in the early stages and I need relief because this is not it.
Well, I'm glad that you are able to access that. So yes, please, yeah, feel
Michelle.
free to share. No, because I have had people ask and I don't have answers. I don't have
Yeah.
any answers to any of it. I'm probably going through shit and I'm just like, just going through it. Yeah.
It
But
wasn't
I'm
me being
glad
in a
that you,
ball of flames all the time and the sleep issues. I think those are the biggest challenges, and they're so in your face. You can't do anything about it. That you know what you're dealing with because you can't sleep at night, and then all of a sudden you're talking to somebody and you're pouring sweat. So yeah,
oh, wow. Okay, yes. Well, I'm glad that you are having, being able to access some assistance here
Right.
because I think that a lot of people will need that type of information. I think for me, in terms of like hot, cold, I blame it on microfiber sheets, and I'm like, I need cotton. Do not put this on my bed.
yeah.
Please, Sandra. I told her that. I said, I feel like I'm wrapped in plastic. It's like
Mhm.
hot, cold, but maybe that's what it is. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Really quick, Rahana, welcome. Thank you so much. Cynthia complimented us on being courageous women who have moved abroad. Thank you so much. Trailblazing. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're living that life. We're all grateful. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up. Danielle said resourcefulness and innovation are skills that are needed, and also having community and friends. Danielle lives here as well. She's going to be singing. Angel said, how did you ladies transition with the water challenges, meaning water is not as safe as in most parts of the US? Personally, I don't brush my teeth with that water. I don't know about anyone
Oh,
else. I know that you put me onto a filter. I
the
do have that
shower.
on my shower.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
shower filter, again, it's not me who did, honey does all this stuff, but the shower
Nita
filter makes a
honey.
world of a difference with the skin issue when it's dry. So when all of those, minerals are being extracted from the water and the water is clean, it makes a world of a difference. So getting shower filters put on your showers.
I'll follow up with you
Yeah,
about that too, Tracy, because the one I had is not effective at all. And I think people will see how hard the water is because if a place has been sitting for a while, you'll see the buildup around the shower, around the sink, faucet. And so you're constantly having to clean those things off. And so it is very visible in a way that I think nowhere that I've lived in the States have I had that much buildup that you can physically see kind of on the surfaces of the water. Outlets. And then like the big garrafons of water, what they call the big, I guess, 5 gallon or whatever containers, they're so inexpensive here. And
yeah.
you either go pick it up yourself if you have a car, or they'll do deliveries. And so you can have a number of them around the house. And so it's easy to have access to fresh, clean, at least filtered water through those water bottles.
Yeah, and that's normal here. Very normal to have it delivered. Like our guy comes
Yeah.
every Monday, and if I need him to come another day, we just send him a WhatsApp and he will ask us how many bottles. And it's about $2, well, say $3 with the exchange rate now. And it lasts, we have 4 or 5, this is for the guest house, 4 or 5 or 6 of them, and we never run out. But that's what I use to brush my teeth because I'm like, if I can't drink it, then it probably shouldn't be in my mouth. So that's just my thing. If you're using it temporarily, I think it's not the end of the world. But if people, are showering and your skin feels really like dried up, especially in the drier months, then yes, the filter will much soften the water. I do love it. My water pressure is out of this world. I love the water pressure in this house. But in addition to that, it does feel different. It feels much softer, so it's worth investing. I think it was $25 or so
Yeah.
to
And they
get
give
it.
out after a minute, so just order some more.
Yeah, yeah, so that's cool. Real quick, Coach Donna, welcome. She said she's super late but glad to be here. Hi, Morgan. She said mullein root tea or tinctures are also a good thing to have on deck. Okay. Angel says a ball of flames. Let's see. Someone said they have a estradiol patch that I apply to my hip weekly. No more sweats for me, but when I forget to change it, it comes back.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay, I'm so behind.
I love it.
I need
Yeah. I'm not normal. I didn't have normal pregnancy, so I don't know. I mean, I probably went through it and didn't realize I went through it.
Morgan said I probably went through it, or no, she said I probably won't go through it because something like just, she says you're so deeply spiritually connected, Tracy. I just think you just was like, and I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Because
I
these
think
women
so
got me
too.
scared. It's like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone is different,
Yeah,
so it's good to know that we have access to the assistance. Because I know, for example, really short when I was pregnant, um, I didn't have the normal things. I didn't have the morning sickness.
yeah,
I had weird things like nosebleeds. Like my nose would just suddenly just, yeah, my teeth shifted.
yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, just like weird things like this. But yeah. So anyway, thank you, ladies. And if you all did not hit the like button already, please do so. I'm super excited, Sharon. Thank you so much. We look forward to the October meetup. If you are in town and you want to join us, please check out casaelm.com. On the events page has all the things. And also in the description, you'll find links and contact information for Alicia and also for Tracy. Both are in business. I know Tracy has a channel. You're on Friday nights,
I'm
6
taking
o'clock our time. Oh, you are? Okay. Well, watch her replays. Hit the like button, subscribe. And
that.
Alicia, I think you
I have a
have.
channel that is basically dormant, so we'll
Okay, hit her replays too, okay? And you can find all of that in the description. I thank you all so much for being here. Thank everyone for being in the chat and showing up. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe to my channel. I'm Michelle for Casa Elm and Hacienda Elm here in San Miguel. And yes, we love living in Mexico, but we also had to bring the real tonight. And we're gonna do it again next week. We're going to talk about, preferably, we're going to talk about any challenges that people have had renting, any real issues that people have had. You know, we have the up things and then we also have the sideways things. So that's it. Hold on, ladies. Have a good night. Don't hang up yet. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.